My favorite thing about being an artist is that I am in a constant state of learning and growth. This can also be the doom of the artist. Stay tuned and find out why. Welcome. This is Abigail Emmert Art, and I am Abby. My mission is to spread joy with my art and to share my process and my experiences along the way. It is a wonderful, whimsical adventure. So let's go make art. In this week's studio vlog, we're going to work through different art medias, and I'm going to share some of my different types of work that I've done here recently and a little bit in the past. And I'm going to do that, and I'm going to explain to you why being an artist in a perpetual state of learning is a magical thing, but it can also be that rock in your shoe. So we'll start out with some of my Mad Libs here. So this year I've challenged myself with a series of drawing prompts to do twice a month, and I'm calling them Mad Libs drawing prompts because I came up with them through a Mad Lib style. I asked my followers on social media for nouns and adjectives and jobs, and then I scrambled them together with a random drawing, and then that way I've ended up with some of these really interesting, weird, and extremely difficult drawing prompts. So this one's Frolicking Flamingo, but let's just sit down and chat a bit about learning, because here I am with this painting. I worked with it in watercolor, and I'm an oil painter. I've learned a lot through oil painting. I'm not very good at these other areas, but that's what's so amazing. I'm in this constant state of growth, and I'm constantly growing, constantly learning, which is phenomenal. I'm never bored, which is so cool. And I'm developing these new techniques because I'm experimenting with markers and colored pencils and watercolor and gouache and all of these different mediums. I'm learning new techniques and I'm learning new skills. I'm watching other artists, I'm taking courses, I'm constantly trying to evolve, which is super cool and amazing because I'm able to apply that to my art. And experimenting's fun, right? Like, I don't know. I mean, I have a freaking blast when I'm experimenting and playing. On the flip side, though, sometimes as much as I can gain confidence from experimenting, I can also run into a bit of imposter syndrome where I feel like, what am I doing? Why am I even trying this? I'm never going to be good at this. It's really hard to learn new things, anything. And a lot of like artwork is a muscle memory, and so if I've not done enough practicing with it, I'm not going to be good at it, and that's really hard sometimes because I want to just be good at it, especially when social media and YouTube and everything, all these amazing artists are sharing their artwork. It's so easy to get caught up in like, well, my art's never going to look like theirs. But just stay tuned, because I'm going to show you a painting that I did just even a year ago. And the difference between the painting of the same dog to now is absolutely extraordinary. And so even though we may not be where we want to be, we're going to keep getting there. And the only way to get there is by being in a perpetual state of learning, right? You're gonna gain confidence with it, and you're gonna gain these new skills that you're able to apply to all works of art. So even though like I'm not a true like gouache artist at this point in my life, I would not consider that. I use it in my sketchbook. I'm playing around like for this little cow, which is an ice skating cow, by the way. I'm learning a lot with gouache, and I'm learning techniques, and I'm going to be able to apply that in my other areas of art that I do. The other thing is that it's constantly stirring up my imagination. So as I'm painting this little cow, I had to come up with this idea of like, how would a cow ice skate? I'll go through and I'll learn from other artists that do illustrations, and how do they give how do they make them characters? How do you make the cow a character? And that was really, really challenging for me to come up with and imagine, how is this cow a character? And that was part of a lot of the growth, right? I get to this point on the cow, and it's so funny because it finally clicked for me, and it really goes into just practicing all the time. I'm sitting here and I'm looking at this cow, and I'm like, something is wrong. I mean, despite her having no eyes right now, which is always really hard because the eyes lead so much expression, but I get a point. So stay tuned and let me know what you think that point was, that I figured out what was wrong and what I needed to change to really make this cow a character. Anyways, going back to the whole chatty chatness about being in a constant state of learning. So I went over some of the reasons why being in a constant state of learning and growth is amazing, right? I don't ever get bored. I'm constantly developing new techniques. The experimentation's fun. I'm gaining new skills that I can apply to my artwork, and I'm gaining confidence along the process. On the flip side, that pebble in my shoe or rock in my shoe or thorn in my side or whatever that gets in the way is that sometimes it's a distraction because I'm constantly learning and I'm trying to apply new techniques that I get distracted by that and I'm not necessarily focusing on what I need to be focusing on. So I have goals that I've set for my business. So not necessarily goals as an artist, but goals I've set for my business. And I'm maybe not achieving those because I'm playing too much in the experimentation field, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but just something to be aware of and something to be just very conscious of in writing those goals down. To me, I use like daily planners, and so checking that constantly to make sure I'm meeting my tasks that I need to do so I can be a successful business. One of the other things is that I've been trying to take courses and I've been purchasing books, and doing all of that's really, really fun. And there's tons of free content out there. Do not get me wrong, there's so much free content. But for the last couple of years, I have found that because I didn't go to art school, I justify that I didn't spend money on art college. I'm going to use that money and buy courses and books, but sometimes that gets really expensive. And by learning and applying a bunch of new stuff, it can create some inconsistencies in my artwork if I'm trying to share a on-brand look. So having an on-brand look can look weird if I'm kind of changing things up constantly, but I don't care because to me, that's all part of the process, and that's what I'm sharing with you guys, is my whole process, my whole journey, because art is not stagnant. Art is constantly growing and evolving, and it's amazing. Okay, so speaking of artwork that's constantly evolving as I grow and I learn new things and I take courses, let's go to my pet portraits because that's what I've been doing the longest. And here's this one. I'm not going to show you to the end. This is an ornament I did of this dog. I did this actually in December of 2021 is when I did that dog. So it's like been a year and a half since I last painted. The family went ahead and commissioned to have me do a larger painting of him, and this is him. And so it's so crazy to go back because whenever I paint any painting, but especially pet portraits, when I first started out, I was learning a lot and I was also hurried. I felt like I needed to complete the paintings in a specific amount of time to make it all worth it. Like going into like, okay, well, I used to charge for my ornaments $45 for an ornament. So I needed to complete the ornament in about an hour because my materials, my time, my paint, all of that, like hourly wages. So I had this like stuck in my head. And as I've gone through and I've learned and I've taken some courses, I did a course on oil painting with Natalia Fabia. I believe I'm saying her name correctly. And she's an amazing oil painter. And I learned so much doing this course. I think it was like a $200 course. I did a Zoom session where she was teaching like a group of people and that were in her studio with her, and then a group of people online with everything. Oh my gosh. This was probably one of the best investments I've ever made for my painting skills. I learned so much from her, and I don't paint anything like close to what she paints. If you look up her artwork, mine looks nothing like hers. But the skills and the techniques I learned from taking her course, were monumental in my growth as an artist. And so that's why it's really cool to constantly be learning. Another thing that I didn't touch on earlier that I want to go ahead and touch on too is not only is experimentation fun and you gain confidence and all of that good stuff, it's that with artwork, learning new art, it's exciting and it sparks an excitement, a rejuvenation. So if you're feeling kind of drab and feeling like you've got like a creative block, it's invigorating to go through and take courses and be inspired by these other artists. So that is so important. The inspiration that's gained from learning is, there's nothing like it. So anyways, going back to this little adorableness. So this this work of art really, I mean, completely different than what I did with this ornament, and you are going to see it's a total difference in them. And it's because I've learned so much, but the big thing is I've learned is to slow down. And when I slow down, I learn more, I apply more techniques, I'm more focused, and I am less distracted. And even if that means that a painting takes me 3-4 times than what its hourly wage should be, oh well, whatever, it is what it is. My prices have increased a little bit to account for that, and should they go up more? Probably, but right now I don't have that kind of, I don't have the ability to increase my prices because the demand's not quite there yet. And so I'm just, if I've got 4 weeks to work on this dog, cool, I've got 4 weeks to work on him, and that's okay. It's not like I'm turning away other people during that time. If I was, then we would change things. But anyways, I think that makes sense, right? So this guy turned out to be a really good painting that I was really happy with, because every pet portrait that I complete, my goal is to make it my best pet portrait that I've ever painted. I've slowed down a ton. I actually used to do more alla prima, and I no longer do that. I come back and I do 2, 3, 4 sessions after it's dried. And to me, it's made all the difference in being able to get that detail of that pet portrait. And I've learned that by experimenting and doing. So here he is, final painting. And look at this ornament. Look at the differences between these two. I'm even wondering, I'm like, maybe this is the wrong dog ornament that I pulled and this isn't the right picture, because it's so freaking different. Anyways, I hope that you learned something from this. I hope that you are able to take something away from this vlog today that might be helpful and just inspire you to continue to learn and grow. Something I always tell people, especially children, because they always were like, well, I want to be an artist, or I'm not very good, or they tell me you're so talented. And that's when I try to explain talent versus skill. It's a muscle. It's like a sport. It's like a musical instrument. The more you practice, the better you will be. You might have some innate talent, but that is only going to take you so far. So the more you practice your art, the better you will be. And that is why I sketch every day, and that is why I make art every single day. I will see you next time.